Hey y'all, welcome to the Blue and Gold Radio, your podcast for all SAE, FFA, and agriculture adventures. I'm Lyla.
And I'm Natalie, and we're your hosts for this podcast.
We currently serve as your 2023 to 2024 Florida FFA District 9 President and Secretary, and we cannot be more excited for our year of service with some of the brightest FFA members from across District 9.
Today isn't just any ordinary episode. This will be our final episode of Season 1 of the Blue and Gold Radio.
Natalie, let's get this podcast rolling with our first question. So Natalie, what is your SAE?
Well, my SAE is this podcast. Traditionally, I always showed plants starting my freshman year, and I have something that I've grown with. But going into this year, I wanted something different. So whenever me and Lyla met for the first time at our first meeting and she suggested doing a podcast, we both took this idea and ran with it. But through this podcast, I've acknowledged my love for not only communications, but just anything agriculture and just advocating for it in general even more. Just the fact that I've had the ability to edit and do the behind-the-scenes stuff is something that I find so fascinating, and that's something that I've been able to grow in. I didn't realize that I would enjoy looking at a computer for 3 hours, trying to edit and listening to the same voices over and over again, but I found joy in it, and it's given me the ability to not only grow in myself, but grow in my communication skills and find a love for it and a passion for it. So, Lyla, what is your SAE?
I'm glad you asked. So my SAE is a part of this podcast as well, the Blue and Gold Radio. And from our first meeting, me and Natalie said from just getting elected district officers, we wanted to do something this year, and we wanted to be able to help the FFA members from across the state of Florida, across the nation, be able to find a way that they can learn about different types of SAEs than just your typical showing a cow. Now, that is a part of my SAE. I show steers, pigs, plants, and I do all of that through the entrepreneurship category within SAEs. And I showed our local county fairs, our festivals, and all of that fun stuff. But definitely the podcast is something that is near and dear to my heart because a lot of SAEs that we have, it's by yourself or it's with people of your chapter. And with this SAE, we're able to connect together and be from two completely different schools who may be rivals in football, but being able to connect together and just show that we're trying to advocate for agriculture and meet with people from the House of Representatives to the National FFA President to state officers to just your everyday FFA member. And that's one thing that I love about this SAE is the connections that we build, from connections together to connections from all the way across the state of Florida.
Yeah, for sure. That's something that we've both grown in. I think just in general is we are just two random girls from Plant City, Florida. We don't have any business to talking to any of these people, but the fact that we have the opportunity to do it is something that's truly amazing and something that I think we both value a lot just over 1 year and how much we've grown through this. So, Lyla, going into our next question, what is one thing you didn't expect from our year of service?
So, upon getting elected, me and Natalie were both, I'm going to say, probably the youngest kids there that was running. We were going up against seniors, people that we look up to personally, and one thing that I didn't expect was the magnitude of an impact that the other FFA members can make on your life. Now, through this year of service, I've been able to meet somebody from a little sixth grader all the way to a graduating senior who has all made an impact on my life of how they can make an impact in agriculture when they didn't grow up with a generational agriculturalist, being a generational farmer, but rather they're just your everyday people. And these students have really just shown me the love that FFA has. I've had times where I've struggled in wanting to stay in FFA because of different interactions that I may have had. But once I remember the reasoning of why I run for office, the reasoning of why I want to do everything that I do, I look at these FFA members and it inspires me. And that's something that I didn't realize was going to happen for my year of service, was the inspiration and how happy I feel after being able to go from a banquet to going from our kickoff barbecue to everything that we were able to accomplish this year. The FFA members' impact on my life is something that is so magical, I like to say. So for you, Natalie, too, what is one thing that you didn't expect from this year?
I kind of just want to bounce off of that one is you're talking about member involvement and how the impact that you had, but I want to go into the impact that we can have. I mean, she mentioned this, we were very timid. We didn't know what we were doing. We walked into this year. I walked into this year expecting that we weren't going to be able to do anything because we didn't have the opportunity. We didn't have the resources. And something that I learned and didn't expect is that we can create those resources and we can do something and go along with it. But that also goes along with the students. We wouldn't be able to do absolutely anything if it wasn't support from the students. We just hit a milestone today. We hit 500 followers on Instagram, and that's almost 250 more followers than we've gained in just a year. And the fact that we even have the ability to do that and the ability to talk to other people is just something that I never truly realized, is that two people can truly make a tremendous impact on other people. It's like a ripple effect. One person can do something and other people are going to follow. Not to say that we're the ones that started anything or that it's doing. However, it shows you what one simple thing can lead to other people, because now going into next year, there's people that are passionate about running for districts next year. And that's something that I admire, is that going into this, we didn't know that you could do something with district, and now other people are wanting to do the same thing that we did. And that's something that's truly admirable about just FFA in general, and just what other people can do for other people.
100%. And that's something that's amazing about this organization. And through our year of service, from the year of service serving the district to our year of service of having this podcast, I've been inspired by Natalee myself, being able to get to know her better, hear her experiences, and how humble she is. I know this last episode, we want to make it just about us, a completion of the year, and how we were so happy that we were able to have all these opportunities. But I have to just applaud Natalee real quick, because there's a lot of things that go into this, and a lot of things that we didn't expect from the year is the amount of hard work that goes into having a podcast as well. And Natalee has spent hours on editing all of these things in order to make this a success. But also, going off of what Natalee said, is that the members being inspired to want to do something, want to be a district officer next year, want to run for state office, want to run for chapter office. Mm-hmm. It's just so happy. It's just great for us to see all these members being able to get the opportunity where they want to do these new things, where they want to get involved, expand their SAEs. And anybody can do that. Anybody listening can do that. Mm-hmm. It's something as simple as having an idea, letting that idea flow, and starting with action upon it. Mm-hmm. This whole podcast started from an idea that we put it together, and now look at where we are today.
Yeah. All it takes is literally one step, and I think that's something that we've encouraged to everybody, is the fact that all it takes is for one thing to happen, and then literally you can run with it. It doesn't matter how crazy, how exciting that you may think that it is, as long as you put your mind to it. I know people say this all the time, but if you put your mind to something, you can truly do it. And I think that's something that we've exemplified over this past year, is that this seemed like a crazy idea. People told us that we wouldn't be able to follow through with it. And we're a year later now, and I think that we've truly demonstrated what it means to take something and go along with it. And that's something that I hope inspires other people, is that you don't have to be scared of your own abilities, and that you can truly go on and do big things if you just put your mind to it.
100%. So I feel like we've touched on this a little bit, but my next question for you, Natalee, is what is your favorite memory from this year?
My favorite memory from this year could range from so many things. I feel like we've done so much. But I think one reoccurring memory that we had early on in the year, whenever we had in-person guests, was whenever we would just eat beforehand. Like Lyla would always come in and that's something I admire. Lyla would always bring her food. I love food. But Lyla would always bring in Chick-fil-A, and whenever the guests would get here, we would just sit there and talk. It could be anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour before we even started filming. And that's something that I just will think about regularly. It's I actually had a full-on conversation with these people, and we felt connected before we even had the podcast, and we didn't even know who these people were. And that's just a memory that I truly value, is just the fact that we were able to build a genuine connection, and that wasn't just an interview style podcast. We truly are building relationships, and that's something that I think everybody can go along with.
100%. That's actually what I was going to say. I can go off other things, because just as Natalee said, there's been so many great things from this podcast and so many great memories that I've had from this year. And I would have to say my favorite memory would have to be the end of every episode. So the one question that we always ask is, what is one piece of advice that you would like to share with our listeners? And that moment, I feel, is one of my favorite moments in every episode. We get to see a sparkle in the eye of our guests, where they get to say something that really means something to them. All the way from our past state officers, Emma Poole, who was being able to talk about her experiences that she had, to our current state officers being able to speak about their experiences that they're going through now. That moment of reflection, that moment of you can do this, and that you matter, something that Hope mentioned. The last few minutes of each episode is something special to me, because we use those moments a lot in our reels that we post on Instagram. But not only that, that's a moment where we're able to just do a lot of reflection from our episode. And I feel like every guest has such a nice and meaningful message that represents themselves so greatly. So all the way from Natalee's message from the beginning of the eating together, which is my favorite part too, to being able to just end it off on a good note, end it off on you can do things, you matter, you got this, and just something inspiring.
Yeah, I mean, even after whenever we're done with the episodes, I feel like me and Lyla, we hang up the Zoom call or we stop recording, and the first thing we go is, that was insane. That was amazing. They are so good. And I think just after they do their little, whatever their quote is or what they want to say to other people is something that we just talk about as soon as it happens. Like, wow, that was a really good message that they had to say, and that's something that we're going to implement in our lives, and that's something that I think that everybody can take advice from, even just from listening.
100%.
Yeah. So, Lyla, what pushes you to keep doing the podcast?
That's a really good question, Natalie. So, what pushes me to keep doing this podcast? When doing this podcast, not going to say anything about, oh, this is amazing, oh, we're inspiring so many people, but more of the facts of you guys that listen. Me and Natalie have gotten so many different types of DMs from you guys of this podcast actually doing something to you guys and inspiring you guys and teaching you guys about new SAEs that you want to do. And just as I said earlier, the connections that we make. The listeners is basically the main reason why I keep doing this podcast, why me and Natalie keep showing up. And also the atmosphere that we have here. I love showing up to film a podcast episode with Natalie every single month. And I feel like it's a way that we're able to kind of be ourselves almost. I know so many different people on social media where they put on their own persona of who they're supposed to be, of acting like somebody else rather than just being themselves and embracing it. And that's something that Natalie has said since the beginning. We're going to keep it real. We're going to be ourselves. We're going to laugh. We mess up sometimes, but that's okay. And the fact that we still have people that listen, we still have people who inspire us both, that's something that keeps me going. The members that are listening, the kids that this is actually making an impact on, and the fun moments that we have here, from our laughters to sometimes we're like, that was crazy, just the whole moment. Yeah. So what has pushed you to keep doing this podcast, Natalie?
I think just in general, the podcast, obviously it's had its ups and downs. We've had our struggles, our fair share of problems, and it's not that we go and share those to other people, but the fact that we push ourselves is what pushes me to do it. Is that there is never a time that I'm going through something and Lila's probably not going through the exact same thing. If we're testing all day long, we're still going to be here at 7 p.m. at night to go film a Zoom call. It's you guys wanting to listen and just the passion that we have for it. I mean, I know I've already said this previously, but through this podcast, I've really realized my admiration for the communications career. And just doing this has opened up so many other opportunities through editing. I just edited a vlog for our banquet, and I thought that was the most exciting thing. It made 3 hours feel like 2 minutes, and that's something that pushed me to want to keep doing this podcast, is that I've been able to learn so much, not only through Lyla and her communication skills, but also just through the technical side of everything, not on a personal basis, but just in I love learning new things, and this has given me a new hobby to go along with, and just realize that I enjoy doing something, and I'm not just going to stop doing it because it's difficult, because it pushes me in the same way that I push Lyla to help me, and that Lyla pushes me to keep pursuing something that seems like a daunting task, even if it takes up so much of our time.
Just as an SAE is it's a supervised agriculture experience. These are experiences that are once in a lifetime. The guests that we get to talk to, being able to spend the hour-long times editing. I know from the beginning of this podcast, we both, or even the beginning of the year, we were talking about what do we want to do with our lives? What career choice? Always a fun question to ask someone when you're getting to know them. And something that I've seen in Natalie is definitely the growth in being able to just the way that she's able to edit videos, the way that she's able to explore the communication side too. And I could see her doing a career in that, honestly, being able to run social media pages, edit videos, everything in communications, because that's agriculture too. We need people to be able to make posts about agriculture, just as Paige Cruz, one of our past guests, said, that she's an influencer in agriculture and she's helping through her following to be able to help the agriculture industry. And we need more people like that too, because maybe your thing's not showing steers or owning a cattle operation, and That's why we need to be able to explore different sides of the agriculture industry.
Yeah, and that's just something what I want to push on you guys is that you don't need something crazy insane to make you want to do an SAE or to pursue something. A podcast may seem something crazy that you would never even think of to do, but it could literally be anything. You could start the microgreens that we had somebody on that we did a spotlight for. And there's just so many different opportunities and pathways that if you even have a spark that you think that, oh, I really enjoy doing that, just do it. If it goes horrible, if it goes terrible, it's fine. You learned from it, but you can still have other opportunities through that.
100%. So we've talked a lot about our year of service from the district all the way to our year of service through this podcast. Not even calling it a year of service, just a year of a lot of great experiences. What's going to happen from here, Natalee?
So from here, we are going to end season 1 once this is done being filmed. And then going into districts. District voting is June, the week of state convention in June. After that, me and Lyla have made the decision that no matter what the result is, if we are still district officers once again, that we are still going to continue this podcast. Obviously, it's something we're very passionate about, and that's something that we're going to continue to pursue no matter if we're still district president, district secretary, or whatever that we may happen to be. The truth is, we're still advocates for agriculture. We're still officers in our FFA programs, and that's not something that's going to go away based on an officer position. And I think that's something that we've said from the get-go, is that it doesn't matter what our title is. It doesn't matter anything else. We are the equivalent to any single person that we talk to. We just simply have Madam President, Madam Secretary in front of our names, and that truly doesn't mean anything because anybody can make the same exact impact as the person next to them, the person behind them. So we're going to follow into season 2 after we find out the elections, and then it's just going to be a little bit of a revamp. We're going to fix a few things that we think that need to be changed. But other than that, it's not going to be anything crazy different. It's just, we just might not have the same titles.
Exactly. So we're going to have some new episodes, new guests, some different types of special surprises that we're going to have for all of you guys for next season. And I feel like the way of being able to have our last episode of season 1, just the way that we started it, just us sitting back and being able to just talk to you guys, talk about each other in our year of service that we've had, is just the way that we wanted to end it on a good note. And being able to reflect on our year and all of the inspiring guests that we have had is just something that's nice for us. And I'm so excited for season 2. If anybody has any questions or would like to learn more about this podcast, y'all can just DM us on Instagram. Now, with that being said, I believe we just ended the last episode.
The final episode of the Blue and Gold Radio. It's been fun, you guys. We're not going anywhere.
See you next time.
Bye.